Like a winnowed seed thrown from a farmer's hand, I am scattered. A fallen angel lying dead in the sojourner's
Welcome to the Garden City Project, and by now you have found our circles. If you know a lot about us, you know that we are trying to cultivate specifically communities and local cultures that grab the creativity, the invention, the innovation that's helpful to God's people in those places and bring them to the surface, bring them to bear, not only to serve that local church, but that local context, and ultimately we provide the means to take what's cultivated there and we curate it. We bring it to the surface through our network connections like YouVersion at a global level to share so people can look at it, emulate it, learn from it, try to contact or join other projects that their church or their ministry or they are passionate about. And one of the big ones is the Liturgy and Art Circle. I would invite you to take a look at our resources for the circles video and also the resources as well as kind of some foundation principles to why we form the circles the way we do. But this Liturgy and Art Circle is specifically about what we share in our About the Circles video. It's just having a meal and then producing together, creating together. That's really all it is. Get together, have a meal, create together. All of our resources are going to help you do that more strategically, more thoughtfully, aid you in all that. But it's not going to. You can make these as informal, as formal as you like. But particularly, we want to acknowledge in liturgy a word that many of you it may be a bad word to you, it may be a word you don't know, it may be a word used in your context every day. But liturgy, basically in the Greek, it's liturgos. And Paul uses it and Hebrews uses it in three ways. One, to refer to God's work, Christ's work in the cosmos. He's the servant over all things. He orders seasons. He orders the calendar. He orders festivals and the Sabbath. He orders every day. He's planned all that out. So God is interceding for us 24/7. His ministry is keeping this world alive. He's before the Father pleading our case. His blood is standing between us and God saying, Dave is okay. He's saved. Please don't, he's mine. He's a child of mine. He's a mediator. His blood is pleading our purity and pleading for our innocence. God is doing this work all the time in the cosmos, okay? And he's ordering everything from spinning the orbits of the planets down to your life when you brush your teeth. He's doing all of that. Number two, he's ordering the church. And he uses your gifts to do it. He works through your hands. He works through the gifts of his people to pastor his church, to minister to his church, to edify, build up, grow his church into the body, into the full image of Christ, right? And he does it through civic society. Paul uses the word liturgos, liturgy, of pagan rulers, that they're forming society. Ultimately, back even in Greco culture, there were benefactors. They were the worship leaders of today. They would go out and they would earn all the money and they would pay for the gymnasium, the arts, the politics, we have them today. And they would fund the things that they wanted people to love. And they were important to shaping the loves and what became ultimately the good life for people in that culture. We see it all the time. Walk in any stadium, any restaurant, any mall, and you will see, like James K.A. Smith says, their vision of the good life. And ultimately became important for people in that society to become prominent. And Jesus even uses in his Last Supper language that there are benefactors, and they use their benefacting prowess and resources to shape badly. And Jesus says there's going to be a liturgy. You might as well think about your form and how you're forming yourself, how your habits, your rhythms, the things you do from day to day, moment to moment, week to week, month to month, how they're forming you into the image of Christ or into the image of something else. And he said everything you do is forming. Everything you shape is going to shape you. It's a centripetal and centrifugal force. It's going to spin inward and it's going to spin outward. And we want these liturgy and arts teams not to think just, I'm not an artist. No, we want you to think, do you have a way of shaping your life, forming your life? And think together, how is what we're producing? You eat a meal together and you say, how is what we're producing shaping us? You're going to have people in that group who are from all walks of life. They may be more right brain, more left brain. You just never know. But they're thinking through this thing. You guys are all thinking together in a we of how is this forming us as a people. The Bible has a liturgy too, okay? People often say it's regulative. It just tells you what to do and you do it. If you don't, you're disobedient. Some say it's normative. They say, well, it gives you some principles. If you do them, you're good. If you ignore them, you're bad. I think it's both. I think it's like music. You have to have a form in your life to help the solo be beautiful, the improv. Without the form, the improv sounds like chaos. Without the solo, the form is boring. And God gives us a life not only of principles to live by that never change, that are like the lines on a soccer field. They protect the game, they protect the rules, they protect chaos from happening. But then he says, okay, go out there, use your skills, play freely, make this game wild. And that's why we love games, because every time we watch a soccer game or a football game, it's always different. But there's always a principle, bottom line liturgy, the rules of the game, forming, shaping how the players will relate to that game, right? It's the same with life. So what we want to do, and I would invite you to look at some of our basis and our materials for this, some of our foundation of why we do this in our video. But bottom line, we want you to get together, have a meal, circle around together, because God, it says, in the beginning was God, and He was with God. That with, forming face to face, is the best image we have of how God relates to Himself, and it's the best image we can give to the world. Meeting in a circle, facing each other, intimacy and affection. Out of that, in the beginning, God created. We're going to see in the beginning of face-to-face community, in the beginning, that group created. And you're going to have a meal face-to-face. You're going to love each other, be affectionate, show the love in one another's of the Bible, and become a community that the world looks at and goes, that's a visual display of the truth. And then you're going to meet together, and there's some tools to help you do that, to discuss your community, your truth, the things you believe, the Bible, the things you're going to do for the community and to the community that is going to serve it. And you're going to discuss these things, and you can choose them freely, but ultimately it comes down to, how is this shaping you into the image of Christ? And you'll look in a lot of our videos, Christ is not just a He, He's a we. He comes with Father, and He comes with Holy Spirit. So to become like Christ, you're going to need we. You cannot just become Christ-like by yourself. You cannot stand in a room and love. You cannot stand in a room and be kind. You can't. You need another to become kind. You need another to become loving. It has to have a reciprocal effect. Centrifugal and centripetal force. The outward, inward. That what you are doing is forming somebody, and as you're doing it, it's shaping you. And you're going to talk about these things. And I would love to see us move away from, I would specifically like this to impact the worship leader ministry. Because today we put up a worship leader behind a guitar and we call him worship leader. And I think Paul was very firm that Jesus is the only one that gets that title. But we, in our own church or our civil and civic environment out in the world, or amongst the church and ministry-related environment, that those two are obviously one and the same, but we may serve in one more than the other. But wherever we go, we bring our faith and our form with us. And so these groups are going to be formed on not your denomination, not your background. It's going to be formed on whether you're becoming like Jesus in your field of work, in your field of study, in the way you are in your life. So check out our foundation for this and why we do this. But this is what you're going to see. And I would invite you to see that there's going to be 3 things that are going to pop up in this. They're going to really be awesome. I did this in a context, in a research environment where I was researching how this worked from the early church. And I did it, and we had a meal, and I had everybody take a truth of the scripture, put it creatively to something, research it, and think thoughtfully through it, and then put it to something, produce something. Whether that was artistic, whether that was academic, whatever that was, however God had wired them to create something. And you can see it in the Doctrine Creative. It's on our website at the Doxology and in our gallery. But one thing that amazed me is all these people brought back these truths that they'd done, photography and video and music and poetry and academic writing. And in one moment, I saw something happening all at once I'd never seen happen before. I got to know the person, got to know their craft, and I got to know their God in the same moment. They shared, and what they shared was extremely personal to them. So you got to see who they were wrapped up in what they created. And then they taught you simultaneously how they created it. And you were drawn to wonder and affection for your God who could create something like that through them. So it created an atmosphere of worship, and then they talked all about their God the whole time through it. And so it became an aspect of worship. Them talking, opening up, and it created community. We felt closer to them, we felt closer to God, and we felt more knowledgeable about what they'd done. And that was the very first time that I'd never had to force that to happen. I just created a structured environment for that to happen, and it just kind of blossomed. And I want that to blossom in your community, ultimately because Garden City's project is about seeing ideas form. And ideas are not just going to start with you, they're going to start with we. And seeing them form for the benefit of the together, we do more together, and then spring up into something that grows, that is going to affect the Big C Church globally. It's going to drop little lessons and little principles and little beautiful things all over communities all around the world and your own community that's going to benefit them. So take a look at our foundation for these circles, take a look at some of the resources and the explanation in the video, and take a look at some of our Song City circles, and we would love for you to take this to the deepest level, and we'll continue to put out things related to this and resources, and we're looking forward to what God's going to do through you.
A king that's clothed